Good evening and welcome to 2018. Happy New Year to everyone. It's excited to have another year or two to pass by very quickly. We've been in executive session and now we're out. We're going to open our public hearing this evening on item number 3 for the Texas Academic Performance Report. I'm going to turn that over to you, Dr. Warren.
Board, we do this every year as required by the Texas Education Code. Melissa has worked very hard on this presentation. We appreciate her efforts. So, Melissa, please.
I've got a lot of great news to share with you tonight. Just to give you guys a little overview of those of you who are not familiar with the TAPR. The TAPR is short for the Texas Assessment Performance Report. We do this every year. Prior to that, it was the AESI, and we have some historic data on that if you were ever curious about that. It is designed to pull together many pieces of data related to our schools, related to the school districts, and our student performance in one report. So it looks at our STAR scores, it looks like graduation rates, attendance rates, high school completion rates, indicators for college readiness, and of course our district financial report. One of the highlights I want to point out is that it highlights our academic rating system. This is the last year our campuses will be rated according to this system. I'm sorry, our school district will be rated according to this system. I have that backwards. The campuses, this is our last year, the campuses will be rated on this system. Going forward, the districts will be rated on the A through F system, and the year following that, our campus, in 2019-20, our 2018-19 school year, our campuses will be rated on the A through F system. There are 4 different indexes. The first index is the Student Achievement Index, and that is all STAR test scores at the campuses. And they basically calculate it by how many tests met approaches standard over how many tests were taken. There's a student progress measure, which looks at how our students have done from 4th to 5th grade, 5th to 6th grade, etc., in reading and math. And it measures whether that student has improved, and campuses and school districts are given a score on that. Closing performance gaps looks at 3 areas. It looks at our economically disadvantaged populations, plus 2 campus or district-specific racial ethnicity groups. And finally, our post-secondary readiness, which looks at whether our students are at the MEETS level on the STAR test, and graduation rates, diploma rates, etc. This year, our index scores, Index 1 was 85, which was well above the cut score of 60 for the state. Index 2 was 40, which is well above the target score of 22. Index 3 is 46, which was well above the target score of 28. And Index 4 is 82, which was, again, well above the target score of 60. Told you I had a lot of great news today. To add to that great news, the district and all 28 campuses earned the state's top rating of MET standard, and 6 of our campuses also earned 10 academic distinction designations, so that was excellent. To give you a little bit of an overview of how our district performed on the different subjects, all subjects, reading, mathematics, writing, science, and social studies, we are given 3 different measures, actually 3 different measures. First one is approaches, which is the minimum standard for passing that test. And across the board, Northwest ISD was well above the state average on approaches. The next level is MEETS. This used to be considered the college readiness indicator level. The commissioner has renamed this term to MEETS. And again, we are well above state average across the board on all subject areas. And finally is masters, and that's what a lot of us know as advanced. And again, across all subject matters, our school district is well above the state average, at least 5 points, and in some cases close to 20. So that's outstanding. In 2017, the state and district comparison percentage of students meeting or exceeding that progress measure on the STAR. Once again, they just look at reading and mathematics or both subjects combined. And again, we were well above state average across the board there. Our college readiness indicators, remember, being an educated citizen is more than just STAR test scores. It's also the abilities that we endow in our students and work with our students to build to be successful members of society and to gain employment skills and college readiness skills. And across the board, we were well above average in our completion of advanced dual credit courses, our CTE coherent sequences, our AP participation, and our AP results in any subject. This is always an interesting piece of data because many of our students are touched by one of these programs. The bilingual ESL education has remained fairly consistent, and I've looked at the numbers for the past 15 years. We have hovered around 5%. Our career and technical education, I want to point out that even though it shows 23.8%, that is the total participation across from a K-12, and our students get their first opportunity to be a part of the CTE program in their 9th grade year. So this is actually what I would refer to as a deflated statistic. Our gifted and talented education is, again, around 9.8%. Again, it's hovered between 9 and 10%. And special education rates is 8.6. It's usually between 7.8 and 9%. Our enrollment by grade level is pretty consistent across the grades, except for years of recession, when the students were born in years of recession. We do predict that our kindergarten and grade 1 enrollments will go up significantly over the next few years. Our total staff, again, matches the needs of our district, and as you can see, across the last 15 years, it has grown greatly. We've gone from 769 in 2003 to 2243 in 2016. And I'm sure our HR department would tell you we have even more now. Part of the TAPA report includes our financial standards report, which is, it gives a breakdown of how our budget is being spent. And if you're interested in that, you can obviously go to the TAPA report and look at that. If you have specific questions, I'm going to refer you to Mr. John Graswich, our financial expert. And then I do want to remind you that we have links to all of these reports on our website. So what are your questions? Yes, ma'am?
Feel free to ask any questions or make comments at your leisure.
Yes. Oh, yes, it's not on here. Currently, special education is included in the total numbers in our Index 1 score. So it is not part of our closing achievement gaps. Those students are part of the overall scoring. It is a state reason, yes. Yes, it is. I'm going to refer that to Dr. Alexander.
Very good questions.
Yes, sir. As I've told the board, this is a hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience, and I do appreciate your question, that has a question regarding the presentation, Dr. DeSimone is there to respond. It's your opportunity for fame and glory.
And if you're too shy, you can always call my office.
Anything else, board members? If not, we will close this public hearing.
Good job. Thank you,
Dr. DeSimone. We are now moving to item number 5. We're going to reconvene our regular meeting. If you would, please rise for the invocation and pledge.
All right, folks, thank you for being with us in our first board meeting of the calendar year. I hope everybody had a great break and a great Christmas. If you feel comfortable doing so, please pray with me. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. And Lord, we just thank you for the opportunity to meet here together as we meet about our kids and their futures. Lord, we ask you to be with our board members tonight as they make these decisions. We ask you that you be with all of us. Bless this meeting and see us safely home. Lord, above all things, we ask you to provide your love, your guidance, your wisdom, and your protection to our children. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, folks, we have 3 very special guests here tonight. Savannah Strong, these are our Justin Elementary leaders. Hi, Savannah. Good job. Right over there. Good job. And we have Carter Croft. Carter, good to see you. And we have Brianna Wandik. Did I say that right, Brianna? Oh. Brianna, would you please say it so that everybody will know your beautiful name?
Wandike.
Wandike. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, listen to what Brianna. This is what Dr. Ron Slavin said about Brianna. Brianna and Blanca, are you in the audience? Okay. Brianna's favorite subject is I like science, to do experiments, to find out new things about nature. I read, I draw, and paint animals and mermaids. Nice. And I also volunteered in the first grade class at church. Good job. Dr. Ron Slavin said Brianna is a leader in the Earth Keepers Club taking care of recycling on campus. Thank you for being here. We really do appreciate it. Savannah Strong, Curtis, Jane, are you here? Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Savannah, math is her favorite subject. I'm good at numbers, gymnastics, and playing with my dogs. You got to tell everybody the name of your dogs.
Blaine.
Right?
Nimitz.
And Nimitz, I love that name. Good job. Savannah overcomes challenges with eagerness and leadership. Thank you for being with us, Savannah. And then we have Carter Croft, Kevin, Shannon. Are we here? Shannon, nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Let's see. Carter likes math. I like to build up numbers to subtract, and I just learned division, which is my favorite. Very good, Carter. He likes to play baseball, which he's a catcher. Yes, good job. Play with their little brother and sister. Are you nice to your little brother and sister? Good job. And you take care of over 20 animals. All right. Dr. Ron Slavin says Carter took the initiative to submit an idea to Dr. Ron Slavin about JES students authoring books for our school. Nice. Very nice. So, guys, we really do appreciate you coming. So we're going to say the pledge to the American flag first and then the Texas pledge, and y'all lead us in that. So you go whenever you're ready.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Very good. Y'all stay right there because we have a little present for you. you all very much.
Thank you, guys. We are now moving to item number 7, recognitions. Dr. Warren.
Mrs. Conklin.
Yes, good evening. Dr. Warren and President Schluter, if you'd come to the front for our recognitions this evening. The Northwest ISD Education Foundation was chosen as the recipients of the Barnes & Noble Southlake Holiday Book Drive. Thanks to generous customers from November 1st to December 31st, the bookstore collected approximately 2,400 books to donate to the Education Foundation. Casey Dickey is representing Barnes & Noble Southlake this evening. Casey, if you could come to the front, please. We also have members from our Education Foundation Board of Directors here tonight. If you guys could come to the front as well. The Northwest ISD Education Foundation exists to provide financial support to empower NISD educators, engage the community, and encourage future-ready students. The NISD Education Foundation is thrilled to be able to give these books to the school district so our students can benefit. We're very appreciative of this partnership with Barnes & Noble Southlake, and thank you for selecting our Education Foundation as your 2017 holiday book recipient. And that is it.
We're going to do a switcheroo on the agenda and move down to item 11A so that we can get some of our Byron Nelson students up here to talk about our student leaders. Dr. Warren.
Board, Tammy, where are you? Tammy McClure, stand up, Tammy. We've got to embarrass you. Board, Tammy is our leadership teacher at Byron Nelson, does a fantastic job with the kids, and we really appreciate her efforts. And our students, and we've got Kwame, Audrey, and Amanda, and they're going to introduce themselves in just a second. They've asked, not a lot of kids volunteer to come speak to us. They get voluntold, but not very many volunteer. And so these three are part of our leadership team at Byron Nelson, phenomenal students for us and our young leaders and our future leaders. And so we thought it would be a fantastic job or a fantastic idea of them bringing this report to you tonight. So Kwame, introduce everyone, or y'all introduce yourselves, and then get after it.
Alrighty, thank you, Dr. Warren. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kwame Amba.
I'm Amanda Ward. And I'm Audrey Hightower.
And this evening, we are representatives from the Byron Nelson High School Student Council, as well as the Texas Association of School Boards, as we serve as the Vice President School. This evening, we would like to talk to you about the worldwide tragedy, human trafficking. Human trafficking is real, human trafficking is relevant, and human trafficking is indeed resolvable. Human trafficking takes part in 3 different areas. You have labor, organ, and sex trafficking. For labor trafficking, many are forced individuals who have to work in forced laborious activities all throughout their lives without any benefits for their families or for themselves at all. For the category of organ, many innocent lives are killed day out and day in, and their organs are sold without their consent. For the area of sex trafficking, individuals are forced to perform many numerous sexual activities without their consent as well. And in these activities, they're given no benefits, no financial benefits, and it's horrendous to see that these people have to go through this day in and day out. The Texas Association of Student Councils has taken this upon themselves to make this our state project for the year. The title of the state project is Deep in Your Heart, Reach Out Your Hand. Our goal together as a state is to reach people across Texas through peer-to-peer education, school, and community presentations. We want to do these through our 4 chambers, which are educate, collaborate, activate, and evaluate. Educate. Tonight, we seek your permission to educate one another on our campuses all across our district. Through having different organizations come and speak to us and our staff about what is going on in human trafficking in our great nation and the great state of Texas as well. We want different visuals all throughout our high schools, such as the human trafficking wall, news update wall, which will educate students on what's happening day in and day out. Different stories that's trending in the news, things that are going on that our students are blinded by. You see, human trafficking is very important because it starts off with the youngest ages. And sometimes we tend to forget that it's not even just older people, but indeed it's the younger ones who need to be educated about this.
Collaborate. Unbound is an organization that we have already contacted and is willing to work with us. They are located in the DFW area, and they focus on how to prevent youth human trafficking. We would like to collaborate and work with the schools across our district. This includes our sister high schools, our middle schools, and our elementary schools. We wouldn't only be communicating with our students, but with our staff, parents, and community members. Together, we can prevent our youth from falling into the cracks of human trafficking. Activate. A project we have already implemented was the toiletry bags for the homeless. Men, women, and children on the streets are usually the first people to be targeted. We received many toiletries and mitts, hats, and we put this in a bag along with a card that has the human trafficking hotline number and ways to prevent human trafficking. To continue to spread awareness, we would like to implement other projects such as a human trafficking walk that we'd like to include all schools in our district. A red thread movement, this is where we would make bracelets to wear around the school all day. And also a day of silence. This is duct tape to wear across our mouth to represent those who remain silent.
Evaluation. We here at Byron Nelson and across the district, We here at Byron Nelson and across the district believe that evaluation is the key to success in order to improve and to be successful in our events. So what we would do is we would survey, we would discuss things that we did wrong, things we did right, in order to achieve the success that we believe we should for this project. Shirt designs. We are out at our events that we hope, and we have just discussed, we hope to spread our message and make our awareness known without having to use our words, and have our shirts be a representation of what our district believes human trafficking should be, which is non-existent. For more information or for any questions, if you want to get more involved, please go to the TASC website. Thank you.
Once again, with all that we've said tonight, just a quick reminder that indeed human trafficking is real, relevant, and resolvable. We hope that you'll take all these projects and different facts of information that we've showed you into consideration. And also, because it is School Board Recognition Month, we would like to take time to thank each and every one of you for all of your help, support on topics like this, and just helping us with our dreams of being leaders across our great district. Thank you all.
Wait. That was an excellent report, but now you get some questions.
I just wanted to thank you. I know y'all start back to school tomorrow, right? Yeah. Thanks for spending this last night here, coming and presenting that to us. That's really special. It's very encouraging when we see young leaders such as yourselves taking a stand, and really appreciate your presentation tonight. Y'all did a wonderful job, and thank you for taking the time to come out here and help educate us, and look forward to seeing where this project goes for y'all.
Thank you.
Yes, I too appreciate your raising of the awareness, because there's so many predators out there, and they're hitting our elementary school kids. Anybody that gets on the computer, on the internet, is susceptible to the traps that you brought to us tonight. So thank you very much for your efforts. And when you get ready to sell your shirts and your red threads, you come up here, and we've got some cash. Ann's got a lot of cash.
We certainly do want to support you, and I thought your presentation was excellent. It was so clear and concise, and I just appreciated how your visuals communicated so well. So thank you.
You guys set the bar way too high for the rest of us now. Thank you so much. You did a good job. You did a very good job. Okay, so what will your next step be? What was the next thing that you need us to do for you to start the message?
So our biggest thing that we are taking in our next step is to have the human trafficking walk. And in that, we don't want it to just be a Byron Nelson High School thing. We want to reach out to our different sister schools, so Eaton, Steele, and Northwest as well. Reach out to them, and we plan on having this walk in downtown Roanoke, where we'll wear these shirts and march around. And we're not protesting, we're educating and bringing awareness to human trafficking to show people that it might not seem as if it's happening in our area, but it is, and just to bring awareness. And so that's the biggest thing we're moving forward to.
Good. Yeah. Excellent job, guys. Excellent job. Thank you all.
Thank you. Also like to recognize Dr. Myers back there, too. You got a good group of kids. It's hard to go on and follow that act. Moving back up the agenda. We went through public participation. Is there any? No. Nobody signed up, darn it. So, consent agenda, item number 9. Board members, you've read the consent agenda.
Mr. President.
Mr. Wright.
Move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Mr. Wright has made a motion, seconded by Ms. Comp, to approve the agenda as submitted. All those in favor? Motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mr. Sproles is out with an illness tonight, so keep him in mind in your prayers. Moving to item number 10, discussion action items. It's the TASB policy updates 108, 109, local district update 2018.01. We had a discussion on this in the December meeting, and I think Dr. Warren has come to us with some additional information. So,
Board, on page 60 in your packet is the beginning of the TASB updates that Christy presented to you last board meeting in December. And if you fast forward through all of the pages of those two updates, on page 1192 is the actual presentation that Christy made, and you have 25 local policies that are associated with these updates. What I'd like to do, if you will go down to and Christy has her presentation pulled up, and she did a great job of discussing the different policies associated with these two updates. You had two policies in particular, and there were some questions about the recommendations, and Christy went through each of these and recommending using the TASB language for those. CO in your packet, that was our food service management policy, and what I've done for you is just I broke down today, after we had our discussion when we got back to work this morning, we had a discussion about both of these policies that you had questions on from our first meeting. CO local, and you see the committee members who worked on this with Christy to develop this recommendation. The actual committee recommendation, the state thought it and this is a very good thing, I believe a very good thing on behalf of the state, wanted to make sure that the kids whose families could not keep adequate amount of money in the kids' accounts for food, that we did give them a grace period before doing an alternative meal. So the committee recommendation, as Christy described on the last board meeting, is a student that has exhausted or has insufficient balance on his or her meal card or the account will be allowed to continue to purchase meals for up to 5 school days. Now, from our discussion this morning about this specific local policy, I gave you about 4 blips down there. Number 1 is TASB did not recommend any specific days. This was totally, this was a committee recommendation that everybody got together and said another week of grace period would be appropriate. I think Ann asked some very good questions. Ann asked about, a family whose financial status changes during the course of the school year. People lose jobs, people get laid off. We did re-verify today that if any family whose financial status does change during the school year can apply, no matter what time of the year it is, can apply for free or reduced program lunch to be able to accommodate them for their financial status.
Dr. Warren, if they apply for that, how long does that usually take?
I believe I saw an email today that we have a procedure in place that it's a 10-day rule to approve. It usually does not take us the 10 days to do that, but if you look at that third blip, Josh, if a family is in the process of that approval, we're going to keep them on the grace period. If it does take the 10 days, they'll be accounted for that. And then the last one is, the meal switch from the kids, whatever choice of entrees they get, the meal gets switched to a sunflower
Nut butter sandwich, yes.
The sunflower nut,
butter sandwich.
Whatever that is. Yeah, it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the peanuts in it. But that is also a choice the kids always have anyway. So it's not that we're giving them a true alternative meal. Those sandwiches, that meal, the sides that they get are always on. So any kid can choose that anyway. It was very important not to single kids out, definitely not put a stamp on kids' hands when doing things like that. So the recommendation for the 25 policies, the recommendation for this one was the 5 days. And I just wanted to start a conversation again. Do we feel that the committee's recommendation of 5 days, is that good for y'all?
I tell you what makes a big difference for me is that alternative meal choice instead of the where you could be singled out with that makes a big difference to me as far as being able to go with 5 days.
And I would concur with Mr. Wright. I'm quite concerned about the 5 days as well. I just think that someone could be without work for a month or two, and these are the children who would actually have more trouble getting a hot lunch at home if their families are experiencing any kind of financial difficulty. So I just wonder, do we know how many children or students would be impacted by this policy?
Debbie, do you want to speak to that? We've got a few more experts in this area.
Thank you.
Debbie's going to have to talk to it directly, but the processing is almost instantaneous. It just depends on how quickly the paperwork comes through.
So in our department, we have a policy in place that we try to work with principals and counselors as best as we can. The 5-day grace, we do give managers leeway to call the household during that 5 days, or if it becomes a habit. Let's say 1 week the student doesn't pay, and the next week they do pay, and then 1 week they don't pay. So we definitely have catches in our system to make sure we reach out to these parents. So we do try reaching out to the household. We went paperless to email parents. So anytime they go negative, we now send out emails to parents to let them know that they are negative. And then we reach out to principals and counselors because if they vouch for a student, we can make them free immediately. So there is that law, thankfully, that a principal can vouch for a student. But if it's ever excessive, we do reach out to counselors and principals and parents to make sure we're capturing those students.
The study that Christy did do of area districts are adopting right now mostly between 2 to 5 days. So we kind of did it at the maximum that. There is a district we discussed today, a larger district in the DFW area, who decided just to do no limit, that the kids could keep it. The problem is they had to write a check for about $200,000 at the end of the school year to subsidize their food, and we just don't have the money to do that. So, we thought the 5 days was appropriate. But again, this is a local policy, so this is your policy. So, the things that we do safeguard kids, I think the committee did a really good job of looking at and trying to recommend the best thing would be for the kids, and then of course to protect us financially.
I understand one of our neighboring school districts does not have any kind of parameters on the length of time, and they've gone to the point of even providing food trucks during the summer so that children will have access to meals. So again, I just feel like $200,000 for children or students who are hungry, that's an important $200,000, and I'm not sure that they would always have access to email. So again, I'm concerned about the limits on this particular policy, in addition to the meals being provided.
Well, from what Debbie was saying, that principals still have the leeway to make that
I've already
happen.
this year, they usually contact me first, and they'll tell me that they have a student that they know is struggling to pay, and then I immediately reach out to Debbie. And before lunch even, we've got that child fed and we're taking care of them until we get with the parent and we get things taken care of. So we've done that several times already this school year.
Yeah. And again,
even at the high school level.
No child is going to go hungry.
Right.
Absolutely.
The 10-day policy is a government policy, and we internally have 3 days. We are pushing at 3 days. We need to get this child on the program. So we don't like sitting on paperwork any more than anybody else does. So if a campus hasn't put a student into teens yet, I reach out to the campus and say, hey, we need this kid in here. I've got to get them on the free and reduced program, and the student shows up 10 minutes later. So we definitely have a goal internally to get them in there as soon as possible.
I've had principals this year that have filled the paperwork out for the parent, and they've done it over the phone, knowing that they were, needing help, and they filled it out, and then we've submitted it straight to Debbie, and Debbie's taking care of it immediately.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with districts that just have an open-ended, you can have a free meal anytime you want it, is that it does discourage these people from actually filling out the paperwork and being identified on the free and reduced price lunch, which affects not only the free and reduced lunch price program, but also other programs, academic programs within the district. And I guess I can understand there's some reluctance to be identified under that category, but it really is helpful to identify when you're not, when you are what you are, to be honest, where you're at. So it's not that they're not being fed; they're all being fed. It's just a matter of making sure that they're identified. Paperwork process to get them into the National Free and Reduced program. This affects both the general fund as well as the food service fund.
And there have been districts across the country that have gone to free lunch for all children, and so I know what the trends are.
What's our food budget? 10 million?
Yeah. So if we're at 40% of students that qualify, then there is that opportunity.
It's about 80% free and reduced. You can go to universal free.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been reading the data on that.
I originally was concerned about the 5 days too, but with these extra points that you've added and things that we're going to do to be sure our kids are fed, I feel better about it. So I'm good with that, as long as we have our principals and teachers. I know they're going to stand up for our kids and make sure they're fed. So I think it's okay.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, hit the pause button just 1 second on CO, and then go to the second packet in your folder. EF Local was the other policy of the 25 that we had questions on, and this was under instructional resources. Rob, Mike, and Casey were the committee members that worked with Christy on this one. This one was a change from the board, actually us waiting on a board meeting to actually approve the district instructional resources. Now the law allows us to change that the board will rely on our professional staff to select and acquire instructional resources for our teachers, for our staff, for our students. The points on this were, and I believe, Ann, I believe you made the comment, was it was very important to make sure our teachers' voices were heard in the committees. As we discussed this as a C&I group this morning, and Rob with the lead on this, our internal selection process is not going to change because of this one sentence, just as who actually approves things. We will always have a team, a committee of C&I leadership, our curriculum directors, and our classroom teachers will review all materials and recommend those appropriate materials to me for approval. So that is not going to change. And if you read through that specific policy, the board actually does control the objectives and the selection criteria, and gives us those selection criteria to the selection committee as they work through this process. So that the only change is we just don't put it on an agenda. I'm going to give you the complete complete packet of the things that we do recommend from the committee level, so you'll know what's being taught, so you know the resources are going to be there, and the selection process will not change. We will have our experts looking at these and making those recommendations.
This is more of a question for clarification, because I know, for example, when materials are up for adoption, they're on almost a 10-year rotation cycle, and there's usually a committee that reviews them, and then there's an opportunity for parents or community to preview them. And that was my question. Are these the resources we're talking about, and will they still have that opportunity for the parent to review the materials if they so chose?
Absolutely. That process won't change.
Okay, thank you.
There's a long list of things that we need to do for parents and community members to make sure that they're in the public and be able to review. So that was that. So, Ms. Hobbs, do you have anything to add from any of the other 23 recommendations?
The only thing I would add is that at the last meeting, our committees were still in the process of meeting and making recommendations, and so there are 3 recommendations that differ from the TASB language. In EHBAF on special ed video and audio monitoring, we added a sentence clarifying that parents need to request that monitoring continue the following year for that to continue, that it's not an automatic thing. And we also revised the time period that we would retain recordings to 3 months, which is the statutory minimum, just because the data in storing those for so long is so extensive. In F&G local, we now have the authority to change our policy so that extracurricular complaints under board policy F&G would stop at level 2, that complaints about extracurriculars don't come to the board. And so the recommendation from the committee was that F&G be revised so that the administrative appeal process is exhausted at level 2. And then under GKC local, the committee also recommended GKC local. The change there basically requires that visitors on campus follow our policies, and the committee recommended that instead of it just referring to visitors in our classrooms, that it also refer to classrooms and all other educational environments, to include parents who might attend something at an OLC or an outdoor event that's not in a structured classroom but is still a learning environment, that we would expect them to continue to comply with our policies in those places too. But everything else is what was presented to you last time.
And could you clarify for the extracurricular, why stopping at level 2 versus 3?
It is an option that the law provides. We now can, and simply some grievances about extracurricular matters may not necessarily merit the board's consideration and the board's time. And so the change in policy would allow those to be resolved finally at level 2.
And so do we have parent input based on that recommendation, or is that?
We have not gotten parent input. We did get administrative input from the campus level.
It seems like what we would be doing there is limiting the parents' right.
Right. They would still get level 1 and level 2, but at level 2 that would stop. And that's only on complaints about extracurricular activities. Anything else is still open and would still go all the way to level 3 for the board.
Did you have something, Judy?
Oh, I'm going to get her to clarify that.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of agree with Ann on that, is that we don't really have that many. And does it really stop a parent's right to appeal to the highest authority, which are us, which they voted into place? So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that.
I tend to agree with you and Dr. Simpson.
I do too. As a parent, I would want that opportunity.
It seems like it just gives everyone that third neutral voice that might be needed to resolve an issue. So I would be concerned about that.
Tell me the number of that one, Christy.
It is F&G local.
F&G.
Yes.
Okay. Was there any other changes to F&G local that the board was going to look at through their decision tonight? Or was that the only decision on FNG?
That was the only change from the TASB language.
Okay.
An FNG legal change to allow the board the discretion to no longer hear level 3s on extracurriculars, but to make that official, we'd have to make the change to local.
So as part of the motion, we probably need to include the change in the F&G local.
Christy, what would you recommend as to language to allow parents to continue to have the level 3 option even for athletic purposes?
Right. In that case, we would simply remove the clause that's been added that would stop F&G, that would stop the F&G appeals at level 2.
Okay. Mr. Schluter?
Dr. Warren?
I recommend that you approve all TASB and local committee recommendations as to policy updates. What numbers were these, Christy? 108 and 109. To include the language that was recommended by your committees and by TASB, with the exception of FNG, that would allow parents to have the level 3 choice.
And just to clarify on your motion, if you wanted to extract that piece, we would simply not adopt Local District Update 2018.01. If you wanted to extract that, that would be how we
Can you clarify on that? Because it says okay, so that is Local District Update 2018-01 specifically?
Yes, and that 2018-01 is only that one change to F&G local.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
That would be our recommendation.
Okay.
And Mr. Schluter, would you please advise me if I wanted to be able to vote separately on CO local?
We can hold CO out and do a separate motion.
Okay, thank you.
If that's what Mr. Schluter would like.
Part of my summary of CO local was to continue to evaluate how this food service policy would work, if there's any issues with it. And part two, Dr. Simpson had brought up some things that I hadn't considered, maybe a summer program with the food trucks, and maybe as we're looking at the budget, that we actually have some of those discussions at that time. But okay, so with all of that, let's see who has the gumption here to make a motion under this item.
Mr. President, just to clarify here, so we are holding out
CO local.
So would that need to be in two? Okay, so that would be to continue.
We would make a motion to approve all policies as described with the elimination of what number?
Local District Update 2018-01.
2018-01, and we would vote on that, and then we would go back and do a separate motion for CO.
Mr. President.
Mr. Wright.
Way to go, Josh.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to adopt and approve TASB policy updates 108 and 109. To add, revise, or delete local policies as recommended by TASB Policy Service with the changes as recommended by the administration.
Excluding
2018.01.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
Gotcha. Okay. Christy's got a bad look on her face.
Yes. I'm sorry, what was the motion again?
Okay, I move to approve and adopt TASB policy updates 108 and 109 to add, revise, or delete local policies as recommended by TASB Policy Service with the changes as recommended by the administration.
Yes.
I'm only moving to approve TASB policy updates 108 and 109.
Right, and are you withholding CO for a second?
And withholding
local policy
CO.
Good? Okay. Good Lord.
Oh, okay. Do I have a second on that motion? I'll go with Dr. Rounce. Mr. Wright has made a motion. Dr. Rounce has seconded it for the motion as read. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. So now we have a 10B.
And Board, I recommend administratively that we approve CO Local, which is Food Service Management, to include the statement, a student with an exhausted or insufficient balance on his or her meal card or meal account shall be allowed to continue to purchase meals for up to 5 school days.
You want that as part of the motion?
That's just my recommendation.
Okay.
That's already part of it.
Gotcha.
That's from this policy.
I will entertain a motion at the board's discretion. Much easier than Josh's motion.
All right, Mr. President.
Mr. Wright.
I would like to make a motion to approve policy CO Local as recommended by the administration.
Mr. Wright has made a motion, seconded by Mrs. Cobb. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you, Board. Good Lord.
It looks simpler on paper.
It sure did.
And moves us
but
down
that was 1,000 pages of things. So very good job, Christy. You did a really good job on all that.
Thank you, Ms. Hobbs.
Thank you. And committee members. Well, when Ann asked those questions, those were really good things for us to go over. Yeah.
So we got 10B, which is budget calendar for the 2018-2019 school year. Dr. Warren.
Board, it's time to start the budget process. This is the first step. You're welcome. This is the first step in the budget process. If you will look at page 1221 is your budget calendar. John has refreshed this for our new calendar to go through beginning tonight, all the way through adoption of the budget at the end of June, through the adoption of the tax rate at the end of August, and through all the way through the auditing process. So, Mr. Graswich.
Yeah, the only things I would add to the calendar is that the budget planning process actually encompasses the strategic plan, which we're in the process of developing a new one this year in 2018, and the capital budget process, which we had, of course, in 2017 with the long-range planning committee, board authorization, and ultimate passage of the election in May. And so those two major processes drive, along with enrollment and property growth, are kind of the big drivers of the district's budget. And as I got here, this is the standard calendar we've used for a decade or more now. Essentially, the key highlight is it kicks off with the financial forecast at the second meeting in January. We distribute the budget packages at the beginning of February. We get the packages back at the end of February or early March in this case, and then start compiling all the data to start sorting through what can and what cannot, unfortunately, be funded. Probably the other key highlights in there is in February when HR brings forward the first staffing request for the campuses, and then we come back in May with the second staffing request for all the additional positions that have come out of the budget review. That'll take place in March and April. Budget adoption, of course, is in June based on the estimated value of property. The tax rate is in August based on the certification of the tax roll. And then it actually doesn't shut down until October of the next year when we adopt the audit report. And we have the interim monthly financial and investment reports throughout. So it's actually almost a 24-month process as opposed to a 12-month process. So we're kicking it off and be happy to answer any questions.
Board, this is a report only to you for this board meeting. John will be back on the 22nd after you reviewed these things, and then we'll ask you to approve on the 22nd.
Yeah, I'd also point out the budget document is out on the website under Financial Services Department for of course, the current year's budget as well, and the previous year's audit is on the Financial Services Department website as well.
Any other questions, board members? Thank you, Mr. Graswich. I look forward to the ride.
Don't go very far, John.
Moving back down into reports under 11B, November Financial and Investment Report. Dr. Warren.
Mr. Graswich.
Yes, this is, of course, the standard monthly report, and we essentially had 4 securities mature, and we reinvested one of them in the capital projects AFB. We had $187 million invested. Interest rates have ticked slightly upwards. They're a little over 1% right now, which means that we had earnings of $216,000 for the month of November, $890,000 year to date. Everything is invested in accordance with board policy. The financial statements are attached, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Just excited to have money and money to spend on these schools. We can hardly wait.
It is good to have money safely invested.
Thank you, Mr. Gresswich. 12 is considering the item removed from the consent agenda, and there were none. Down to Board President's report. A few things I want to announce. Wednesday, January 17th is the first day to accept applications to run for a place on the school board. We do have 3 places that are open, Mr. Wright's, myself, and the one vacated by Mr. Fuller. For those who are interested in the audience, and I'm sure there's a throng of those, packets are available at the Northwest ISD Administration Building Monday through Friday from 8 till 5. The completed packets are due by 5 p.m. on Friday, February the 16th, right around the corner. And Election Day is a lot warmer time of the year on Saturday, May the 5th. Also, I might note that the Northwest Metroport Chamber Awards Gala is coming up on Thursday, February the 1st at 6:30 at the Speedway Club. And one last thing I wanted to note was appreciate the dialogue of the board members tonight, and I'll do a better job of trying to gather all of your thoughts on these items so I can give the administration some direction as we move forward. With that, we'll move to Superintendent's report.
Board, just a couple of things. PTA, excuse me, PTA Reflections Gala is tomorrow night at the Byron Nelson PAC. This is about over 200 of our kids are going to be honored by our PTA. This is a big night for us, so your attendance is definitely wanted to do that. I know you're busy, but this will be a really neat thing for our kids, and the PTA works very hard on this. And then one thing that I wrote to you about before Christmas, just to make you aware, going to be a big busy spring with attendance boundary committees. That's a big deal. We've grown. We didn't do it last year, but we're going to have to do it this year. It's going to affect a lot of campuses. But the the Adams Middle School and the Lizzie Curtis Elementary School boundary committee meetings are going to be the first ones up. January the 18th, January the 25th, and February 1st are those committee meetings. And Tim is going to start working through those processes, and then he has about 9 to 10 other. They'll all be at once. I'm sorry, that was misprinted. All of the lines will be looked at during those committee meetings, the 18th and 25th and the 1st. And so just wanted you to know you're probably going to start getting some calls. Those are the things that really make parents nervous when we start moving attendance lines, especially at our elementary schools. So just be aware that we're starting that process. And we're going to do as much communicating. Tim's did a great job of getting the committees together, and then once the committees make recommendations, it's going to be a roadshow. And I'll be doing a lot of talking. That Tim will be doing a lot of talking about communicating with our communities about the changes, potential changes, and then of course it'll come to you for decisions.
Excellent,
Mr. Schroeder, that's all I have.
Mr. Wright and